Yeah, I figured let's take a look at the odd movie curse in Star Trek movies. It's like the odd ones always suck, and the good one, the good ones. Let's take a look at that. No, and the best way to do it is really just one at a time, because it's like you really look at it, it's like no, there's nothing really to this. And I'll get to where I think it came from and what it's really all about when we get further on the line. Star Trek: The Motion Picture was actually a pretty damn good movie. Okay, especially now that we finally have the finished version. It only took like almost 50, 45 years. It's like 40 something years to finally get it finished. But even then, it's like there was the bones there. It's like, no, this is a pretty heady, type of thing. It was, it did take you, it forced you to sit there and think and actually show some patience. That is a movie that really demands to be seen on the big screen too. Part of the thing of having an overture in there was this is a throwback to old time movies. They did overtures all the time. Watch Patton sometimes, even at intermission. So, but that was the whole thing. It's like you're playing music, and this is while people are coming in, and getting their seats, and then you start the movie proper. But the whole thing, it was not a bad movie. It makes you sit there and think of it. It's not, it came out at the wrong time probably. It is in the vein of 2001 and not Star Wars. It's not a big shoot 'em up. It's not a lot of action going on. There's a lot of sitting and thinking and talking and trying to figure out what's going on. But it was still a good, proper science fiction movie. So no, and plus it's the first one out of the gate. They're still trying to figure out what they're doing for the most part of that thing. So now again, a lot of this is reacting to what happened the first time. So time for Star Trek 2. They blamed Roddenberry for a lot of what went wrong with the first one, rightly or wrongly. He did interfere. He did cause some problems, but not as many as he thought, and they blamed him for, because a lot of with the back and forth on the whether it's going to be a TV series or a TV movie or a low budget movie or another miniseries. That was the studio couldn't make up the damn mind. So lumping all, and that's why it all the final budget came in at $44 million at the time. That was like on the par with Cleopatra, and that damn near destroyed this, the Columbia Studios, or maybe at Fox, but either way, whatever studio, that damn near killed it because it was so damn expensive and it took forever to make any money off of that one. But they decided sideline Roddenberry as much as possible. And in an interview with Starlog, he motion pictures is a director's milieu. It's not for producers or television. The television is a producer-driven thing. Directors are hired hands. Whereas movies, it's the director's thing. And that was Robert White, and he didn't have much. Roddenberry didn't have much of a resume with movies. He'd made one film at that point. Pretty Maids All in a Row, kind of a sleazy little thing. And so he didn't have much to back him up as far as maintaining his status as executive producer. So he was kind of forced. He was forced to decide, and he had no choice in the matter. So, but he kept on. He still had been able to throw in notes, and they were perfectly free to ignore him, which they did frequently. But Harve Bennett was brought in because at this point they had the sets, they had a good deal of stock footage from the first movie, but they addressed some of the gripes about the first movie. And again, this is a response, and why the second one was because actually the second one didn't make as much money as the first movie. It was just slightly less, but it cost a hell of a lot less than the first movie with all the added costs of the Phase 2 debacle. So it was far more profitable than the first movie. And again, you brought in Harve Bennett as a TV guy, and the TV division made Star Trek 2, not the motion picture division. This was Paramount Television made Star Trek 2, and they kind of kept going that for a while. And their main thing is they want them cheap and fast. In fact, during the interview process, they're talking to Harve Bennett, And they're saying how he would do it. And one of the executives said, "Can you make it for less than $44 million?" And Harv just looked back at, "For that much money, I can make it 10 movies." And that's it. You're hired. And it's kind of ironic because back in the day, while Roddenberry, they're waiting for Star Trek to get sold, or he was making, he made a lot of pilots on there. One of them at the time was the Long Hunt of April Savage, which actually had sold. It was going to be on ABC, but for some reason it fell apart and it never got made. But they were making the pilot, and Harv Bennett was working at ABC at the time, and he was sent down there by the studio to find out, keep a tabs on the thing. And Roddenberry got pissed off, and he had him thrown off the set. So I'm sure somebody remembered. Yeah, remember that guy who threw off the set back during April 7th? Yeah, he's not running the movie. What? But he, Harv Bennett, to his credit, he was not knowledgeable of Star Trek, but he made a point of getting knowledgeable. He likened it to being a paratrooper in the war, being told we're dropping you deep, well behind enemy lines in Poland. Here's a Polish phrase book. Good luck. And he's reading the book as he's skydiving down. That's the way he felt. So that he's in that, and he reviewed all 79 episodes, and probably also the first movie. Just compare it all in. And that when he hit on Space Seed, and we'll think at the end, it'll be interesting if we come back in 100 years and see what crop is sprouted from the seed we planted today. It's like, well, how about we do that? And again, you got the Moby Dick aspect, you got the, and also forget this thing about it only being a few, because one of the things that kind of was a little stretching it is they played the motion picture was supposedly only like 3 years or so since the end of the 5-year mission. So that's kind of answer the question of why was Chekhov only lieutenant? Okay, we threw that one out of my convention time. He kind of flushed it because Sulu and Uhura were lieutenant commanders, and Chekhov's only made it to lieutenant. Well, then everyone moved up one grade, But if you listen to the dialogue, it's Kirk had been head of fleet operations for a few years. They just the refit of the Enterprise was 18 months. So we're not talking very far removed from the original original series. In fact, they legitimately could have put them in the original uniforms, like they were going to do for Phase 2. Put them back in the old uniforms, and it would have been right on there. The only thing would have been weird if they didn't also have have Shatner in his old hairpiece, because that hair didn't match. But with Star Trek 2, it has been 15 years since. By this point, it had been 15 years since the events of Space Seed. So it's let's make it a little more realistic. And they're all a little older. They're getting a little creakier. It hasn't been last week since he was getting. No, it's been a while since Kirk has sat in the chair. And so building on that and get the action in there. And you're kind of an over the hill gang feeling on this. And I think we're too old for this crap. But a lot of explosions, a lot of phasers, firing back and forth. And it was a much more exciting film. I'm not sure it holds up as well as a motion picture, but at the time, certainly it was much more exciting. People were like, yeah. And of course, you got the thing of Spock dying in there. But, originally when they did the first screenings of it, they didn't have that scene at the end with Spock's coffin nestled amongst the greenery. It's like they said the audience was leaving the screenings like they were leaving a funeral, and they were. They were not excited. They were all sad and lonely and depressed that Spock was dead. And if we put this movie out like this, that's it. There will not be a third film. No one's going to be excited because they think Spock is dead, and there's no anticipation that he might be back. Whether they had any plans or not at that point to bring him back, it's like, as far as the audience is concerned, he's dead. He's gone. We're done. That would have been the end of the franchise. And so that's why they kind of went behind Nick Meyer's back and shot a couple of scenes with put it in the amongst the trees and give them hey, there might be something here, and to give them a little hope, And it's like artistic vision can only go so far. You're trying to maintain a series here, and that's kind of the problem with movies and series. Movies have to be the big, stupendous, and as a movie, Star Trek 2 fits all the thing. You got the death of a major character, you got all thing, but you got to remember you're want to go a next one too. You can't do it. Everything's got to be the top. Otherwise, what do you do for an encore, which is the next movie? So, and there's where we got a thing about the odd movie. No, Star Trek 3 was a good movie. It did not suck. It was the shortest one of them. It's only about 90 minutes. Because Nimoy, his style was you do a lot of your editing in the script writing phase. Like, don't shoot a lot of extra. Get the story down to what you want. And that point where it's cheap, where all you're using is paper. You're not going through film and actors' time and building things. You get your stuff set up. So when you get to it, and you're done. And Star Trek 2 is a fine movie. And frankly, it was the first one that really felt like proper Star Trek. Because Star Trek 2, it's like, yeah, they're learning the language. They haven't quite got the syntax right. It's like, not quite, but 3, yeah, this feels better. This is a native speaker we're listening to here. And then, they got that, and it was all impressive. There was no planned trilogy here. It was like, you got 2, all right, and the idea of killing Spock off was kind of sprung to him, during the hey, how'd you like to have a good death scene? Oh, really? But as they're as they're about to do the film, and the scene comes in where Spock's got to go in there and hotwire the warp drive, he kind of springs it on D. Kelly. Okay, yeah, all right. Now look, before I do that, I'm going to lay a mind meld on it. It's something like remember or something. And D's, you're coming back, aren't you son of a bitch? It's like, it was it's just something. It's something quick. We can figure out what it means later. But it was improvised on the spot. I'm not even sure they put it in script form. It was just like, I don't have to explain it. Then remember, and then get there, do the thing. And so in the between time, when this, okay, what is this remember thing? And they come up with the idea of the Katra and the life essence transfer, yada, yada, And so, all right, we get the bunch back together at the end of that movie. What do you do for that encore? Well, you got to get them back to have them come back and charges. And, well, that's not enough there, because there was a script floating around in the fans, the Star Trek 4, The Trial of James Kirk. It's like, sure, right. Obvious crap. But, the big thing, whaling was still it had been since the 70s. But this would find, like, we can really do something here. Like, that's the kind of thing Star Trek would take on from that. Like, this kind of save the whales. And it did result in a massive drop in whaling. It got it because it was because Star Trek 4 was a big crossover hit. It wasn't just the hardcores coming. Now it appealed to a lot because it's set in present day. It was easier for the regular, mundanes to relate to it and so they, these fish out of everyone knows a fish out of water story, and most of the movie takes place in that time modern day San Francisco, 1986. And Star Trek had penetrated the culture to the point everyone knew who Kirk and Spock was, even if you'd never seen an episode of Star Trek. It's one of those cultural phenomena things. Everyone knew about it, even if you'd never watched it, you knew of it. So it was easy to get a crossover audience to go in there and watch it, and it was, as far as just raw dollars, the most successful film at that point. If you adjust for inflation, it's still up there, but not quite the big one. The big one still was the motion picture, because that put a lot of butts in seats. But 4, that was a big crossover hit. So yeah, and then, okay, we got them back. They're all together at the end of the thing. They're on the ship and not doing well. Okay. And then it's time for, well, Shatner had a clause in his contract a long time that whatever Leonard gets, I get too. He got to direct a couple. It's my turn. He was supposed to direct the last episode of the 3rd season of the original series, but the network dropped their option in the last couple episodes. So that kind of stung a little bit. But Shatner directed TV, TV episode for a while. He directed some theater back in the 50s. So he wasn't totally, newbie in directing. He hadn't done a feature film at that point, certainly not to the scale of a Star Trek film. And what didn't help is that when it came time to do they started cutting back on a lot of stuff. So a lot of stuff this was a film. Sadly, it needed the special effects, and they kept cutting the special effects. They couldn't even get ILM. ILM was busy doing The Golden Child, and the ones they got stuck with were really not equipped to do this sort of thing. They'd have been better off going back to Howard Anderson if they're still around, I think, and having them do the effects. But it's like, it was bad. Okay, they're not good effects. And that is where the odd movie curse comes. It was brought up. Not because it was every odd movie is bad, but because they need something. And there was a chance for everyone to finally, now they had a clunker on their hands, jump on Shatner. This was their excuse to start venting their spleen on Shatner. Because they'd been, up to that point, you never heard a word about any discord between the cast. Everyone was a big, happy family. The closest you got that was an interview in Starlog with Stephen Collins about what it was like on the motion picture set. And he let slip that, they're not the happy family they think they pretend to be. It's like, really, there's stuff going on. And he didn't go into any detail on that, but it's like, this is not quite, what I think, what they like to pretend it is. Well, when Star Trek V came out, and then suddenly they could start blaming him for why this movie was a dog. In actuality, it was not a great idea for a story. Because it's like, I think Harve Bennett was right when the boil it down. If you've got a good idea, boil it down to the TV guide description. In that case, tonight's story, the Enterprise goes to meet God. That's not going to fly. Because, it's not going to be God. It's going to be some fake out. And if it is God, you're going to disappoint a hell of a lot of people. Either way, it's a lose-lose. Don't even go there. The backup story was, they find the Fountain of Youth, which would have been a better idea. In fact, they've done that sort of thing before. They've done Fountain of Youth stories before in Star Trek and since. I'm not, actually the animated series could be considered a Fountain of Youth aspect to it, but they touched on it a few times in Next Gen, and it's a common, it's a popular theme, and what you do if you could roll back the years, go back to your 30s and 20s and get a chance to start over. They should have gone with that. Instead, they hooked on this thing. What do they go? Meet God. And that was also a thing of studio interference, because one of the things about Star Trek 4 was there was a lot of comedy involved there, because the fish out of water thing, they're doing nuclear vessels. I don't know. But the studio came in and the idea, but we go out and we meet God. And it's like, okay, can you make it funny? And that's where a lot of the forced humor comes in. And it's like, most of the accounts, even George Takei said, as a director, Shatner's great. He's a fine director. He'll give you your emotion. It's not, because they'll joke, well, Star Trek 5 is going to be everyone's magically transforms into Bill Shatner, and he plays everything. It's like the Julius Caesar concept in Free Enterprise. That's kind of what they're bouncing off of. Shatner plays everything, but no, everyone got their chance to shine under Shatner's direction. He gave them little bits to do, not necessarily great ones, like Scotty knocking himself out on a pipe, and then I know the ship like I back of my head, bunk. I mean, realistically, yeah, that does happen with mechanics who know working on fighter aircraft. They know them like the back of their hands, but they're still occasionally like working on an A-10. They'll still bunk their heads on that gun sticking out the front. But it's not something you expect the audience to. It's not. You really don't want to play that up. But it's stupid. He did his part. He looked like a punk, fell down. Like a good little soldier. But it was a lot of forced humor. It didn't work. And again, it wasn't necessarily Shatner's fault on that one. He was put in a situation. And the stuff he wanted to do, it's like he got, supposed to be some rock creatures coming up and harassing Kirk to the end there. They produced one rock monster. Well, okay, maybe we can just, shoot from different angles, make it like a monster. No, it was horrible. The footage is on the special edition of the DVD. They got deleted scenes on no, bad. No. So yeah, that was because, no, we can't put that on screen. so it just turned into God coming up with things and shooting lightning bolts at him. But that one really is the first one that really just like, yeah. But the fact that it was pretty much self-contained meant we can ignore this, And I go with, Roddenberry's saying that one's apocryphal. It really didn't happen like they say it did. In fact, I go with the thing of the entire story It's really just a campfire story told around the campfire at Yosemite after a few too many helpings of that secret ingredient that McCoy's putting in the beans. Because think about it, you got the opening teaser there with thing, but most part it's just nothing really happens until after they're at the campfire. Well, what are one of the rituals of camping out? Ghost stories. And so I would like one of these days, I really want to do a thing of a drunken narration commentary track on that, where McCoy and Kirk are telling this story about the time they had to go to Nimbus 3 and save the galaxy from there. And because look, the story gets more and more bizarre as they proceed onward, which I interpret as more and more helpings of that secret ingredient. The drunker Kirk and McCoy get, the worse the story gets, and it gets totally bizarre. And then they find God is right there, and it's I don't know if it's snowing yet or not, but it'll be snowing. I already took my timesheets down, so I'm fine. I'm in for the weekend. But and again, you have to find some good voice work because but occasionally have Spock coming in. Vulcan has no worthy. Shut up, Spock. We're telling a story. But that's really the first time you really get a bad movie. And of course, naturally, after a bad movie, you're gonna, and you got the 30th anniversary coming up at that point. They're gonna pull all hands on deck. It's, okay, no, we can't leave it on this. Normally, that'd be the end of the franchise, but that one's like, no, we got we got an anniversary coming up here. We got to do something big. Nick, can you come back and that's when you got the Undiscovered Country, because Chernobyl had happened a few years before, and that was kind of the beginning of the end of the Soviet Union because things are falling apart at that point. And so they met. Okay, let's deal with the kind of the social commentary aspect here, building our real, rip from the headlines thing. So what if something happens similar to the Klingons, where now they can't maintain the thing, and we get and the wall coming down, yada yada. And so that then they're bringing a lot of stuff in. Now, by this point, though, Next Gen has been up for a few years. And Roddenberry now has a little extra clout. So now, his faculties are starting to fail a bit. But he's now able to, exercise a little more control here or there and make sure that, they see his notes, they see his notes. Because he's been sending notes through every movie, and usually he's totally ignored. But now, he's back in charge now. Next Generation is on the air. It's been going, and it's a success. So, okay. Yeah. There's thing about the difference in all the bridges. It changes quite a bit. The turbulence get farther apart and everything. But with 6, yeah, and again, first time Nick Meyer is now back. He's directing. He's helping write. He actually rewrote the script for Star Trek 2 uncredited. Because they wouldn't have more money. Just let me just write. Leave me off the credit. I don't need to get paid. Just let me do it and get it all polished up to it. Works. But 6, and also he did help on the script for Star Trek 4. So and again, he's another one. He knew nothing about Star Trek starting off. He reviewed all the episodes and got caught up to it as much as he could. But again, 6 was the case. Yeah, and we're going to end this, and everyone's giving their stuff to, and there's a few missteps here and there. The thing with them, reading the Klingonese out of the books, it's like, no. I think that one, if I could reshoot that scene, it'd be like, to call it up on screen and read it off a screen. If they're going to be reading it off, they shouldn't be having great big textbooks, for God's sakes. It's the 23rd century. Okay. Apologies to Samuel T. Cogley, but no, you're not going to have encyclopedias on the bridge because you think they're not hearing them flipping pages here and then again you got monitors right there, call it the lab computer, and just and actually have the and then struggling. What are they saying? Like, the computer can translate it, put it in English there, and then have and then put a phonetic Klingon response there. And they have that, and you can still have them stumbling a bit with the pronunciation, but it's like that was just a dumb scene. Some of the stuff was just done. Oh, this will be fun. No, that's never justification for a good scene. But for the most part, it still holds up pretty good. It's still rewatchable. So we got that. But here's where you start getting a little bit part of the curses. You get part of the basis for the curse, even though it's largely bullshit. Is you got a movie, it does sort of okay, but there's other things wrong with it. So they do the next one, they put a lot of effort into it and they knock it out of the park here. And then the next one, they get a little full of themselves and they start sliding a bit, and the things so it's constantly back and forth, sliding with. For the most part, yeah, it's crap. that's the rationale. It explains the marketing more than anything else. Because first Star Trek movie, they tried marketing with stuff, but it wasn't that kind of movie. So when the next movie comes along, the licensees say, we ain't getting burned again. So there's no marketing for Star Trek 2. But it does big time, yeah. So next time 3 comes along, they're trying to get back on the marketing. But again, it's sort of not that kind of movie. There's not much there to market. I mean, you got maybe a Bird of Prey, but and it goes back and forth there. The really big ones, the marketing's kind of lackluster. So they get the marketing out there, but it's for the crappy ones because they're responding to the last movie. But it feeds into the myth. But then we get in, but back to the thing, we get to technically Star Trek 7, which is Generations. And again, by this point, they're kind of taking things for granted, and they do stuff they really shouldn't have done, namely killing off Kirk. And the science was really shoddy at that point. And Ron Moore and Brandon Braga have we kind of dropped the ball on that in a few aspects here. Now, this was not our best ever, and I personally gave credit to me and a lot of people, but I personally threw crap their way about killing Kirk was dumb. This is not what Star Trek would be. We want to do a movie. No, this is not a Star Trek type message. Okay, it's overcoming this kind of crap. And the way Kirk died when the original test screenings, when they had him shot in the back by Soren, that was the movie tested higher than anything else they had done up until that moment. Then it tanked. And that's why they had to go back and do a research. And the best they could do was him dying under collapsed scaffolding. Basically, the captain dies under the bridge, which is preferable to being shot in the back because 20th century is not that hard. Yeah, that one hit, and people weren't happy still. It did okay at the box office, but I was like, this is not good. I mean, you destroyed the Enterprise for no good reason, violating a lot of issues because those shield frequency, they'd already dealt with a Borg. They rotate shield frequencies on a regular basis. It's automatic. It was in the tech manual before this thing. They automatically rotate shield frequencies. And did anybody think of the idea of eject the damn warp core? It's like, they violated a lot of their own rules with that one. So that one didn't really sit well. It still doesn't sit well. And so they already blew up the damn ship. So although it would really piss me off there because the 6-foot effects model, pretty sure this day, has on the registry on the upper saucer NCC 1701E. They were considering bringing back that same model as the Enterprise E, which kind of puts the lie of the wound to get rid of it. Really? Then why is there an E on that hull? That one's like, but they no, we'll do another ship. Okay, and then something big, long, and suited for the big screen. But also we're not going to kill anybody off this time for the next, and they drew a lot of inspiration from Aliens. I even called Ron Moore on that one. I was like, did you guys watch Aliens too many times here? And I was just seeing the script at that point. But it was okay. It worked out. It was a good popcorn film. And it did very well. Because again, you'll get a new ship and lots of bang being, lots of action here. And Jonathan Frakes, damn good director. Because it was a learn. And he'd done a few episodes of Next Gen, but it's like there was always the budget there. So it was a bit of a learning experience for him when they're doing the encampment and the bombardment and he's asking a cinematographer, can we blow this up? Frakes, you're in the movies now. You can blow it all up. So he went, okay, great. And he really cut loose, and because the money was there to do stuff like that. And they were able to cut loose and make this a big production. because they're out on location. I don't think check on that. I'm not, I don't think because Deanna didn't trash it this last time in Picard, although she didn't really take the helm much. But yeah, so so First Contact, which is technically Star Trek 8, again, the Perpetua thing, but again, it's a reaction to failings of the previous movie. Not that the previous movie was all that bad. In some cases, like 3 was fine. 1 was still a pretty good, solid movie, even the unfinished form. Now it's finished. Yeah, thankfully it's now recognized as the official version of the movie, not the theatrical cut. The theatrical cut was a test screening that ran on for way too long. The director's edition is now recognized as the official final cut of that movie. So take your theatrical cut and shove it up an afterburner. But then, okay, and then we move on from there. Another big success. So, yeah, see, the odd even thing works. Well, not really, but what doesn't help is when you got Insurrection. Again, another one. Insurrection is not that bad. Okay, it's as far as it's one of the more Star Trek type stories they've ever put out. This is the kind of thing that would, but because it's not necessarily a proper movie type thing. It's a smaller type story that and because the Earth is not imperiled. It's not it's a more of a self-contained. It would have been a very good 2-part episode of Next Generation. And Michael Piller wrote it. It was kind of get more of the feel of what the show was all about, and that's it. I mean, and Picard had a great line. I was like, how many people does it take? Admiral, before it becomes wrong, 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000. How many did it take, Admiral? That was a great scene and great, and that's why I love that movie. Frank, I was defending that movie from the very get go. Oh, it's horrible. No, this is probably the most Star Trek story we've had in a long time. It's as a movie that it starts to fall apart a bit. The First Contact, that was all models. There wasn't really any CG in there. Now they got to CG later on because let's see, we're up to Insurrection. And the next one would be, well, I think 8, 9. So 10 would be, there's Nemesis. And that was a case of, they're falling into old habits. They've taken it for granted. They'll come and see anything and not reading the room well, because at the time that Nemesis came out, we're struggling with some issues with Enterprise that they're not really listening to the fans and actually kind of making fun of the fans, taunting them at times. Oh, they're just bugs on the windshield. Oh, really? Well, they're not listening to us on the TV side. We'll make them listen at the movie. Yeah, a movie coming out, we ain't going. And that's why that movie failed, because it's one thing. Like, remember, Star Trek 5 was a bad movie, but it won the weekend. And that's why, like George Lucas said, he opening day weekend for Star Wars. He wasn't there. Anybody can win opening day weekend. It's what you do next week. That's determined. But Star Trek, Nemesis, in the jargon of the time, never opened. Other movies moved their movies away from, because everyone else thought, yeah, Star Trek, they're going to win the weekend. Don't even bother. We'll move it back a week, move it up a week. But it lost opening weekend to a Jennifer Lopez rom-com, Made in Manhattan. Star Trek Nemesis got $19 million opening weekend. That is pathetic. Even back then. Normally, it would make at least $50, $60 million opening weekend. It made 19. And when a word got around that it's not even a good movie, then they didn't come up, because Galaxy Quest didn't do very well at first, but the word got around that it was a good movie. And so people came out and made it a hit. Nobody did that for Nemesis. It was well known that, we're not doing that. And the director in that story's got it coming out that Stuart Barrett didn't know anything about Star Trek and didn't want to know anything about Star Trek. He didn't research anything. He was constantly referring to Geordi as an alien because of the eyes, and that kind of pissed off LeVar Burton. And it was just making stupid and pushing storylines that nobody liked. And it's like, what the hell are we doing? And so you wonder, why didn't Frakes do it? Did he really need the break that much? It's like, that one was truly a bad movie. But again, that's an even number movie. It should have been great, right? Wrong. That right there should prove the curse is full of crap. The movie stunk on ice. It's still a crappy movie because the leaps in logic and stuff. The push for the idea that Shinzon would be a clone of Picard was kind of late in the process there. But they wanted some young hunk to be, why? It's like, and it damn near killed Tom Hardy's career in the womb, because he'd only done like one movie before that. If they really wanted to make a point that it was a clone of Picard, which what that opening shot was supposed to do, but because he looks nothing, even with the prosthetic, the nose, he still looked nothing like Patrick Stewart. What they should have done is either pay Patrick Stewart, for doing a double role, have him play Shinzon and Picard. Then you got the thing where he comes out and you hear the same voice and you see the same face. Holy crap. And then you start making, how the hell did, or next best thing is get Ben Kingsley to play Shinzon. Because he's, it was on Craig, they show Craig Kilborn during the 5 questions. And they asked King, okay, true or false? Someone has come up to you and said, Mr. Stewart, I love your work in Star Trek Next Generation. And Ben King said, it's true. It's true. So, yeah. And it'd be a kind of reunion for those two, because they were both in the Royal Shakespeare Company at the same time. And I'm sure Ben Kingsley could whip out a Patrick Stewart impression. But the two it would be very easy to make Ben Kingsley look more like Patrick Stewart and explain the physical differences like they did in the movie. Well, because of the harsh lifestyle and everything, he would be a minor type thing. So it's going to stunt your growth a bit if there's any difference in height. And that would have worked. And Kingsley would have gone for it. He's been in some very bad movies, okay? Blood Rain, ring a bell? He's done some turkeys, okay? So this would be a step up on that regard. He needs a big old geek, okay? He loved, when he was doing press for Thunderbirds, he came out on Craig Ferguson. He was singing the Thunderbirds theme. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he would have done Nemesis. He played Shinzon. So in fact, he shot as the Mandarin, and they God, he's a big old geek. He would have gone for it, and it would have elevated the material somewhat. And then get anybody else but Stuart Baird to as a editor. Stuart Baird is one of the best. Okay, he's edited some of the best movies out there. He was an editor on Superman, first movie. But as a director, yeah, there's a reason why he hasn't directed on the movie since then. He directed one movie beforehand, Executive Decision, I think. It was a Kurt Russell, Steven Seagal thing. And I guess it did okay because that's how he got Nemesis. But it's like, no, you're done. He pretty much killed his directing career with one shot. But yeah, you can't just say even odd. No, it doesn't work that way because it doesn't fit. It's not true. Because not all the odd movies stink, and not all the even number movies are great. Okay, Nemesis right there was number 10. Yeah. And I'm not sure if you could. Reading Rainbow, you could kick out that five episodes in a day on that show. So you could get set for the season, during hiatus. You'd be set for that show forever. But yeah, I'm not sure if we could really stretch this into the JJ thing because there was a big, massive gap there. And frankly, I don't think any of those JJ movies were any good, frankly. You can also argue that none of them really made any money because they're so goddamn expensive. The first, it made more than the first. Adjusted for inflation, that took forever to barely eke out get more than the motion picture. Because if you adjust for inflation, the motion picture was ruling the roost for a long time. and it wasn't on. It wasn't even on 1,000 screens back in the day. JJ movie that opened on like 3,000 screens, and with the higher ticket prices, it still took a long time to catch up to the old 79 movie. But also figure out how much more expensive it cost, what the marketing cost. They did a massive marketing campaign for that movie. There's also a marketing campaign that pissed off them. This ain't your father's Star Trek. Well, fuck you. Because, my father's Star Trek, hey, my Star Trek, asshole, okay? They start off pissing on and calling a bunch of old fogies. And really, I might see it once. Yeah. And I saw it on a free pass. I have yet to pay anything to see any of those movies. But you got the 3 films. I wouldn't. And our DVD collection, yeah, we've got them on thing, but they're not kept with them. They're kept somewhere else across the room. I don't want them anywhere near the actual Star Trek movie. But there we go. The odd, even curse. It's a bunch of horse crap. Well, in a way, Picard season 3 is the next gen movie we should have gotten as a finale, and that was the whole point. When they dragged that one out, because it was felt that was not. This is not a good ending, and a large part of it, was undoing a lot of crap that had built up to a certain point, but also giving them the proper send off. Because truth is, the proper send off was All Good Things, but the movies messed that up. Instead of leaving them set up, they started production on Generations the following week after they wrapped All Good Things. In fact, they confused them when they were writing the script while they're working on All Good Things. And Brandon and Braga and Ron Moore, they got mixed up. Which one are we working on today? It's like it's a miracle that All Good Things came out as good as it did, because they were messing things, back and forth. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there soon. So I'll break this here and put up its own thing. Then I'll come back in a few minutes and start another one here. So like, share, subscribe. Hit the thanks on the bottom there. We can, because even though the chat is over, you can still throw a super chatter away or something or other. I'm trying to make this channel a going thing again, okay? Because I'm trying to make sure that, yes, there is life after Indy. Because eventually she's going to finally wake up and get out of the thing. But I still got a channel to run. So we will talk at you later.